Amid growing uncertainty, Iran and the US have agreed to hold talks in Muscat on Friday. The US wants ballistic missiles to be on the discussion table, the very idea that Iran detests. In fact, the US Secretary of State made it clear that the talks will be meaningful only if Tehran agrees to talk about aspects like the range of Iran's ballistic missiles and its sponsorship of terror outfits, as the other side calls them.
I think in order for talks to actually lead to something meaningful, they will have to include certain things. And that includes the range of their ballistic missiles. That includes their sponsorship of terrorist organizations across the region. That includes the nuclear program, and that includes the treatment of their own people.
Fears of an escalation remain high as the U.S. has been expanding its presence in West Asia with warships and fighter jets. U.S. President Donald Trump continuing to pile up pressure on Iran, refusing to rule out military action. In fact, Trump wants that Iran's supreme leader should be worried. Listen in to what he said.
Should the supreme leader in Iran be worried right now?
I would say he should be very worried, yeah. He should be. As you know, they're negotiating with her.
Now, as per reports, mediators from Qatar, Turkey and Egypt in the latest have presented Iran with a framework for talks. And according to this proposal, Iran would commit to zero enrichment of uranium for 3 years. After that period, it will agree to limit uranium enrichment to below 1.5%. Additionally, the mediators reportedly proposed that its current stock of enriched uranium would be transferred to a third country. The framework also entailing Iran agreeing not to transfer weapons and technologies to its regional non-state allies. However, Iran has refused to cave in to any such demands until now. Tehran chose a peculiar way, in fact, of reminding the US earlier to think twice before making any aggressive maneuvers. IRGC's aerospace commander reportedly unveiled a new underground missile base. On this occasion, he also highlighted that Iran had strengthened its deterrence power, according to him, by upgrading its ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles are rocket-propelled weapons that deliver warheads containing conventional explosives or even biological, chemical or nuclear munitions over varying distances. Now, it's worth noting here that Iran already has 5 underground missile cities in various provinces, including Kermanshah and Semnan. Its range of ballistic missiles is possibly the reason why the U.S. has a lot to be concerned about when it weighs possible strikes on Iran. Let's just break this down for you further. As per U.S. estimates, Iran has the largest stockpile of ballistic missiles in West Asia. Israel is traditionally in striking distance of these missiles. And the arsenal comprises multiple missiles which have a range of 2,000 kilometers. Sejal, for instance, is one of the most potent missiles as it can fly at over 17,000 kilometers per hour. Its new model being developed, reportedly, will have an expected range of 2,500 kilometers. Others can also fire munitions 2,000 kilometers away, as you can see. Now, Iran also has other long-range missiles. This includes Ahmad with a range of 1,700 kilometers, Haj Qasem with a range of 1,400 kilometers. That's not all. It also possesses short-range missiles like Zulfagar. Zulfagar with a 700 kilometers range, also Shahab-1 with a 300 kilometers range. Another formidable weapon in Iran's arsenal is the Abu Mehdi long-range anti-ship cruise missile with a range exceeding 1,000 kilometers. It also poses a threat to U.S. naval forces as it is designed to evade ship defenses. Now, all of this assumes significance given the belligerent posturing of the two sides that we've been telling you about all throughout. A day earlier, a U.S. fighter jet, remember, shot down an Iranian drone in West Asian waters. The Pentagon said the drone was approaching an American aircraft carrier and was brought down in self-defense. Meanwhile, the IRGC has seized 2 oil tankers with foreign crews for allegedly smuggling 1 million liters of smuggled fuel, while it's still unclear as to what flags the tankers were carrying. But this marks heightened tension amid increasing U.S. naval presence there. With repeated threats of intervention by America and Iran's crackdown on the protests, it is apparent at this point that Trump has a lot more at stake in the current geopolitical climate. In fact, all eyes are now on whether the upcoming talks can actually lead to a breakthrough, or will things escalate further. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has apologized to the victims of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. This after he faced criticism for appointing Peter Mandelson as Britain's top diplomat to Washington, despite his involvement with the late sex offender, allegedly. Starmer said no one knew the depth of the relationship between Epstein and Mandelson, adding that he will do everything in his power to ensure accountability is delivered. He apologized to Epstein's victims for believing Mandelson's lies and appointing him. Listen to this.
I'm sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. But I also want to say this. In this country, we will not look away. We will not shrug our shoulders. And we will not allow the powerful to treat justice as optional.
Now, just for context here, the leader has been facing criticism in Britain, with the Labour members warning that Starmer's days as Prime Minister may now be numbered. Mandelson is facing allegations of misconduct while he was in the British cabinet. The charge basically is that he leaked sensitive information to Epstein as business secretary. And on Sunday, Mandelson quit as a member of the Labour Party and announced his resignation from the House of Lords. Switching gears, Prime Minister Modi today briefed the Rajya Sabha amid a walkout by the opposition. Before the opposition leaders made their way out, there was ruckus in the upper house of the parliament. The opposition chanted slogans as the Prime Minister was trying to speak. Many leaders then continued their chants and protests outside the chambers. Here are some key highlights.
Please take your seat. No, please take your seat. Now, when the Prime Minister is on his legs, please take your seat.
आदरणीय सभापति जी, राष्ट्रपति जी के अभिभाषण पर आभार व्यक्त करने के लिए मैं उपस्थित हुआ हूं।
Please take your seat. This is not correct. Please take.
आज पूरा विश्व ग्लोबल साउथ की चर्चा करता है, लेकिन उस चर्चा के सूत्रधार के रूप में आज भारत वैश्विक मंचों पर ग्लोबल साउथ की बुलंद आवाज बन गया है। अनेक देशों के साथ आज भारत फ्यूचर रेडी ट्रेड डील्स कर रहा है। पिछले कुछ ही समय में दुनिया के महत्वपूर्ण 9 बड़े देशों के साथ 9 बड़े हमारे ट्रेड डील हुए और उसमें मदर ऑफ ऑल डील एक साथ 27 देशों के साथ, यूरोपियन यूनियन के साथ। सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद एक वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर बना था। अब एक नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर की तरफ विश्व बहुत तेजी से आगे बढ़ रहा है और सबसे बड़ी खुशी की बात है, सारी घटनाओं का अराजनीतिक तरीके से निष्पक्ष भाव से विश्लेषण करेंगे तो झुकाव भारत की तरफ है।
A bronze statue of Mahatma Gandhi has been stolen in Australia. The figure was severed from its base and taken in the dead of night, reportedly. Victoria police saying a grinder was likely used to cut it off clean. And what remained was the statue's feet, still bolted to the concrete there. Police are now warning some scrap metal dealers to watch for attempts to sell cut bronze. And India's Ministry of External Affairs has condemned the theft and raised the matter with the Australian authorities. The 426-kilogram statue was unveiled in 2021 by the then Prime Minister. It was a gift from the Indian government and placed right outside the Australian Indian Community Centre. The Rajasthan-made bronze idol has a history of being targeted. It was vandalized within a day of its unveiling, later defaced with anti-India graffiti, and once targeted in an attempted beheading as well. And despite that history, authorities are saying there is no clear evidence that the theft was racially motivated, no slogans, no graffiti, no claims of responsibility either. Victoria's Premier, however, has condemned the act, pledging full support for its Indian diaspora. Shifting focus now to Brazil, where hundreds of indigenous people in northern parts of the country have been protesting for 2 weeks outside a port terminal operated by US agribusiness giant. In fact, they are angry. They are protesting the dredging and development of Amazonian rivers for grain exports. And this protest is centered in the Amazon port city of Santarém in the state of Pará, the same region that hosted COP30, just for context. Indigenous communities say these rivers are vital to their way of life and to the survival of their culture. But they fear the government is opening their territories to large-scale agri-business projects. The indigenous community says their protest is meant to force the government to present real solutions and listen to their demands. By midweek, around 700 indigenous people from 14 communities had joined the demonstration. And according to advocacy group Amazon Watch, protesters have blocked trucks from entering and leaving the terminal, a decree that was signed by the president in August last year. The decree basically designates major Amazonian rivers as priorities for cargo navigation and private port expansion. Protesters are demanding that it be cancelled. And they also want a federal tender revoked worth about $75 million for managing and dredging the river there. This is one of the Amazon's major tributaries. Indigenous leaders call the project a project of death, saying that it threatens rivers, sacred sites, and traditional territories. Brazil's Sports Ministry has defended the dredging plan. It says the project is necessary to improve navigation safety and ensure reliable transport. But the protesters accuse the government of breaking a promise made at COP30. They say no projects were supposed to go ahead without prior consultation with the indigenous communities. The ministry has acknowledged the legitimacy of their concerns. It says no project can proceed without community consent. Still, protest leaders say they no longer want talks. They want the decree scrapped entirely. For the protesters, this is not just an environmental issue. It's a struggle for their future, for their rivers, and for their right to be heard.